Welcome back to the second part of Men Behaving Badly special. If you haven't listened to part 1 with Harry Enfield, go back and listen. But today we're going to be watching Series 5, Episode 2, entitled The Good Pub Guide. So we just watched Series 5, Episode 2 of Men Behaving Badly, entitled The Good Pub Guide. Does anyone want to recap on the premise for this episode?
Yeah, sure. The premise was that the local pub is closing. Well, not actually closing, it was being refurbished. And they weren't particularly confident in the refurbishment, so they thought they had to find a new pub to provide their patronage to. And it was about them sort of searching, and they had quite a detailed sort of checklist of what their pub should have. Mm-hmm. All the while they were salvaging parts of the old pub to furnish their flat with.
Yeah.
There's also a subplot involving Tony trying to bed Deborah by pretending to be into astrology.
True, yeah. And there's the conflict also between Clunesy and Quentin about men and women and the differences between them.
It's like the old battle.
Yeah, classic battle.
Mars and Venus.
Mm-hmm. So the episode starts with the two of them in bed, and I don't believe an actual word is spoken for quite a while. Gary, Tony, Gary. Thank you. Gary farts in bed first of all, gets a laugh. There's then a moment where he's picking his ear with some earwax, and yeah, he farts twice more, and then I think the dialogue actually starts. Yeah, it's just a bit of back and forth, really. At that point, does anyone want to go for that scene?
Yeah, so he reads out. They're both reading the paper. Different one paper each. Yeah, he reads one about, I don't know, breast implants in Brazil or something, and laughs boorishly. I think he farts again or something, and then Dorothy looks on in disgust, and then reads out a fictional story from the paper saying that a lady who was in bed with her boyfriend stabbed him to death or something. Mm-hmm. And
it's carrying on the same sort of thing of I haven't really seen much Men Behaving Badly, but I'm guessing through most episodes it's like they're living in a flat, they're men, hashtag men. They're going to be sort of disgusting, they're going to be doing all these sort of things, and she's just, oh, for God's sake, putting up with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that there's one gag in there that I wrote down, which was, how would you feel if I farted in bed, which is what Dorothy says, and the glee in his eyes of, I'd be delighted, which wasn't necessarily a gag, but I did really enjoy the reaction that caused.
Yeah, here I think the kind of interplay between the two characters is quite light and quite naturalistic, and it's sort of less antagonistic. It's sort of the episode kind of the relationship kind of descends into more antagonism as the episode goes on. Yeah, it starts off considering he's just grunted a couple of times in bed. You know, she takes it quite well, and they're sort of having a bit of couple banter there. Yeah. And but then they sort of the scene ends where they sort of towards the end of the scene they kind of mutually agree to have some intercourse. Mm-hmm. What I thought was that's prime Dutch oven territory there. Like he really buffed up the sofa, the duvet as they went to
smell that
to insert. And that must have been pure. Yeah. Because he hadn't billowed it. He hadn't kind of bellowed it out of the duvet. Yeah, it's still in there.
He'd not made like a sort of like wafted it out from one side or anything, had he? He just left it.
No, that is
festering.
Just a hermetically sealed Dutch oven.
Lovely.
But luckily enough, Tony comes to interrupt.
Morrissey to the rescue.
Yeah.
And that's where the whole sort of pub part of the episode comes into play.
Yeah, he's in shock. He's
yeah. It's that thing about the pub's like the most important thing to them. Like that whole sort of culture of they're there to they just drink. They're alcoholics, aren't they, basically?
Yeah, that men
the binge
culture.
Drinking sort of culture.
Which is very of its time, I think. Like that was very like the lad kind of culture. Britpop was quite a laddie time. It was when that sort of period, Loaded and all that. Those magazines came out.
Okay.
I mean, do we think something like that would work? Would that work today? Would a sitcom sort of based around sort of binge drinking, lad culture, sort of? I don't want to say sort of. It's not. I wouldn't say it was sexist particularly, but the sort of
No,
like
because
the way they're sort of like generalising men and women's things,
Yeah.
would that sort of work as a premise for a sitcom sort of today? Do you
But
think?
like a bit like the viewpoints, like the worldview of Gary and Tony is the source of the comedy. Like it's the show doesn't agree with their.
Yeah.
I don't think the audience is laughing at them like they're
Not with them,
stupid
yeah.
men, and they have simple people who do stupid things, and like the women are the adults in the show.
But in terms of if it was done today, I don't feel as though it would be the same sort of comedy if it was. I feel like the tone of it would change somehow. I feel like even just to note something that happens next, I think the type of comedy changes, and it was a bit slapstick in places, which I found not bad at all, just odd. I didn't expect it. Morrissey got hit in the head with a toilet.
But it's very. I think it is very of its time. I don't think like lad culture nowadays is necessarily.
It's different, isn't it?
It's different. Yeah, I mean, it's not.
It's more like in
The way that masculinity is defined nowadays isn't really the same as the way it was defined in the mid-90s.
I was just thinking like more sort of the only way is Essex is more sort of prime masculinity. That sort of character.
I'd imagine that if they in an episode of Made Me Behave Badly in the mid-90s and the only way is Essex was on the TV and they were watching it, they wouldn't identify the men in the only way is Essex as they would be
like
figures of fun
male.
for them. Yeah, they would find them too feminine.
Yeah.
So Tony comes in as they're getting it on. Dorothy's horrified. Well, not as horrified as you would be if you were.
Yeah, she's quite relaxed.
Yeah, I think it happens a lot. I think she's used to. She knows what Tony's like.
Yeah.
He comes in. He's horrified. The crown is being redecorated. We have an exterior shot. The first that we've seen out of these 2 episodes, an exterior shot. Looks like Ealing to me.
I very much thought so. Around about that era.
Yeah. I noticed in the background in their flat there was a poster of QPR, which is the West London team.
Oh,
So is it? Okay.
more
So
clues.
it's called
I'd imagine that's Gary's. Gary seems more like a football fan than Tony. I mean, Tony would sort of watch it if a big game was on. I don't think he'd be a season ticket holder at Loftus Road.
What teams do you think they support? I mean, I know QPR poster was there, but do you think just
One
QPR?
of them supports QPR. You wouldn't have like a poster of a team you didn't support in your. That's ridiculous. Unless Dorothy's it seems to be quite anti-lads culture. I don't think
Yeah,
she'd be much of
probably
a
it's
football
just QPR. Then ridiculous question.
I think Gary's a sport fan out of the two. I think I reckon at school Tony was a bit of a joker. He bunked a lot of lessons. He's quite a simple man. Gary, as we've established, has a cricket bat.
Oh yeah.
I think in the background, behind the fridge, there's a little alcove. I think I saw some cricket pads hanging up. Gary is the sports fan.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Eagle-eyed.
Thank you so much. I was paying attention to the set dressing in this particular episode. There's one sofa I want to get onto, but that's later in the episode. But I'm
Tune in for that.
saving that. So yeah, we had the exterior shot of them walking down to investigate what's happening at the ground. Some workmen are gutting the pub, are taking the fixtures and fittings out of the pub. And that is when, as you mentioned, Tony gets clocked on the head by a toilet being removed.
Yeah. Do you notice the guy with the yellow hair in the background?
No.
Oh, it's a guy with yellow hair in the background.
Eagle-eyed.
Thanks. Carry on, sorry.
There's like a comedy sort of clang sound as he gets hit on the head. And he looks quite dazed. And then the landlord comes out. The new landlord.
Kenneth. Yeah.
Played by John Thompson. Nice to see.
Yeah, I like him. I think I mostly know him from like the Fast Show, so it's quite nice to see him in something else. I think that scene cuts very quickly from saying that they were disappointed that they were taking the pub apart, and they said, "Oh, you'll never catch us in this pub," and then it cuts to them being in the pub drinking.
Smash cuts them inside the pub.
Yeah.
They haven't in the process of refurbishing the pub, so the lines aren't set up yet. So they're drinking out of cans. So it's just to make sure they establish that fact. It's not a functioning pub at the moment. They're in the process of refurbishing it. So there's no draft beer. Just to reiterate to the listeners, there's no draft beer at
There's no draft beer.
No,
that's
they're drinking
outrageous.
I know. I think that's
terrible.
Yeah,
terrible landlordsmanship. Just to go into what they're refurbishing it into, do you want to cover that bit at all? Like what the sort of style they're going for?
Yeah, so he sort of goes through that he's like looking at loads of different, they're looking at loads of different themes for it, and then eventually he sort of decided they found like
what were the themes that he thought about and discarded?
I can't remember.
At first, the brewery wanted to rename the pub Mobiles for people who like to use their mobile phones in public. Then they were going to turn it into a Shawaddy Waddy themed pub called Shawaddy Waddies. Then they thought about a darts themed pub called Tossers.
But the one he decided on was he found like an old sort of black and white photo
From the war.
from the war of the pub, and he was looking to refurbish it back to that sort of like standard, sort of like bygone era, and it led to what I thought was one of the best jokes of it was.
Then the brewery decided to recreate the Crown exactly as it was, so I found an old black and white photograph of the pub before the war.
What was it like?
It was terrible, apparently. Loads of people got killed.
Classic misunderstanding.
Yeah, that was my joke of the week, for sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Yeah. It then cuts from that to, I keep getting the names mixed up. I think Tony's character. They're very similar. They both end in Y. It then cuts to Morrissey, also ends in Y. Outside.
The name change works better than Dermot, doesn't it?
It's too flat.
Well, Dermot worked for his character, but then remember him badly being lads, Tony and Gary.
Yeah.
It's two lads' names, isn't it?
Yeah, Dermot's just flat and more Irish to me.
Not supposed to be like that, is it?
No, it's not. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's just.
No, but for his character, for the way that he was, Dermot is a good name. But then I think we'll go into the way that dynamic changed in this period later on. But
yeah. So it then cuts to Morrissey outside Leslie Ash's flat, holding a present for her, and this actually cuts to another joke I've got that I quite like, which was like she lists some like crap presents they give her in the past, and when she opens it up, it's a condom machine that he's taken from the pub, and she says something like, "Oh, I don't like it," and "Oh, why? Have you got one already?"
Yeah.
Which was funny. And then he invites himself in. He just sort of like barges past with the condom machine, and they start talking about astrology. And she asks what star sign he is, and he says Solero, which is a lolly. Lolly. Yeah. Lolly's a good word. I like the word.
It is a good word,
yeah.
Lolly.
Yeah.
What did Lolly sing? What was that?
Viva la Radio.
Was it just that? Or it was.
I think she made a cover of the Tony Basil song "Hey Mickey."
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Viva
I
la
don't
Radio.
know why I'm so excited by that. Oh yeah, that's my jam. Yeah.
Classic Lolly. No, but in all seriousness, listeners, "Viva la Radio" was a great track.
Yeah. Was that original? I don't feel as it was.
I think that was a Lolly original.
Wow.
I'll give you a little blast of it now. Viva, viva, viva la radio.
Key change.
Viva, viva, viva la radio.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
It's good. It's good.
So from that, we go straight into the pub montage of them assessing the different pubs. The music for that.
It's "Hurry Up Harry" by, I don't know, punk band.
Oh, thanks. I was trying to Shazam that as it was going on. Who was the band's name? Hurry Up Harry.
"Hurry Up Harry." Sham 69.
Very good. So it goes from that to them in the living room going through like the pub ratings on the like clipboard or whatever it is they've got, and in the background they've got like the urinals just sitting there.
Yeah. Tony's also making his star.
Oh yeah,
star
he's making
chart
star
thing.
chart. Yeah. Do you want to talk a bit more about the star chart there?
I think it further establishes that Tony's a simple character. He's quite a childish project he's working on. He's using felt pens.
Quite chunky felt pens as well.
Yeah. So they're both sitting on an incredibly 90s sofa. It looks like it's ridiculous. It's like an Aztec print. It's quite like a thick canvas, I think. But it looks like dazzle camouflage on a World War I battleship. It looks so
dazzle camouflage.
What, the sofa?
Yeah.
I thought it was just grey.
Who had that big dazzle camouflage? Was that upstairs?
Was that Deborah's one?
She got her own sofa.
What, in her own flat? Yeah.
I imagine she's got a sofa. Yeah.
Oh shit! No, that was it.
Yeah, their one was just like the grey one. She had like the sort of really brightly decorated sort of
Her
flat. Their one's a
flat
bit more
was
sort of
so
drab, isn't it? Whereas her
90s.
one's that sort of
Yeah,
like it
really
is a very
bright.
sort of typical 90s flat. She's got like, is it yellow? I mean,
It's
yellow
proper changing
walls?
rooms, wasn't it?
Or is it proper bright and sort of block colours?
Yes.
It's really
That
sort of
sofa
garish.
was something.
Yeah.
Also, there was this intense headaches looking at that
Yeah.
every day. Sorry, yeah, it's the wrong sofa.
Yeah.
The Wallace and Gromit.
There we go. I thought it'd be something.
Sort of sofa pitched.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all right. Yeah.
That's all right. But on the same kind of vein, then Dorothy comes in wearing just an incredible denim jacket with like squiggles on it and a big spiral on the back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a snakes and ladders board walking around.
And again, it's the same sort of thing. It's like, oh, they're watching TV. They do all the same thing that she said they do. Like, the TV comes on, he goes, well, hey, look at that or something. And it's like...
Can't get many of them in
cartoon
a
or something.
suitcase.
Yeah, and it's just...
And then the reveal is that they're watching the cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, second cartoon gag. I like that that's somehow matched up with the
Yeah.
previous episode.
Well, hey, look at the top bollocks on that. Don't get many of them in a suitcase, do you?
For God's sake, it's a cartoon.
Another thing that matched up with the previous episode is that Dorothy's surname turns out to be Bishop, which I clocked on her little name badge there. And I mentioned Bishop, obviously, in the chess match from the previous episode.
Brilliant.
And she only ever walks diagonally as well.
Walks diagonally. Oh, for God's sake. Oh, that took me far too long to get. Can you play chess at all? I don't think I asked you before.
I know like the basics of it. I wouldn't say I could
He
play
knows enough to make a
at
game,
any
yeah.
level. enough to make an exhibition, make a show of it. You know.
Nice. Well, can't play it at all. That's impressive. Phlegm, fart, squeaker, not scratch, which I believe is the order in which they
That's
do.
your email password. Isn't it?
No, that was a nice kind of resolution to the part when they're in bed and she sort of lists all the things that men do that are disgusting, and then he, later on in the episode, in order of what she says, does those things, and she's looking. It cuts to her repeatedly, sort of looking disgusted at him.
I think that's a man spreading if you were talking about it today.
Yeah,
Today's
that's true.
theme. Yeah.
So I think the next thing that happens is that Morrissey leaves because he realises the other two are having an argument, and then I think Clunes leaves at some point, and Morrissey comes back, and they start talking about how Leslie Ash is currently having like a career crisis at the moment, so she's quite vulnerable. And Morrissey says, "Yeah, it's great, isn't it?" So he wants to exploit her to bed her, essentially.
To woo her.
To woo her, you say? Yeah.
No, he wants to bonk.
He wants the bonk.
He wants to bonk.
Oh, he wants to bonk.
Well, that's what I think.
They're
It's one of the from what I mean. I don't really remember any specific plot points from like Men Behaving Badly, but it's them drinking, them being sort of like louts, and his sort of continued
Unrequited,
pursuit of her, isn't it?
pursuit, yeah.
Like that's his sort of driving. That's what it is, isn't it? Really.
Does he have a job?
No.
I think
Well,
so.
I don't know. I think he works on and off. I know from like looking at like
It's
sort of
temp
like general plots where it goes. I think final series or final episode.
Is he working in the bar at some point?
He gets a job as a postman
Oh.
at the end. I don't know, but
I think this is actually the prequel to before he becomes a builder. I think that's what
Mm.
happens. Yeah.
he's doing
Wit-
nights.
witness protection.
like bricklaying and stuff.
Actually, no. I think the thing that happens next is this leads to quite a nice reveal where they're looking at it's Clunes in the pub with John Thompson's character Ken, and they're talking about how they remodeled the pub exactly like the war photo, and Clunes is sort of looking around and says, "Oh, can you show me that photo?" And the photo reveals it was so stupid. The photo reveals it's just a modern photo in black and white of and Clunes and Morris's character in it.
It's
But I
like a
think-
more ridiculous picture.
Because it's Morris's face that makes it. He's so happy to be there.
He really
he's just
is.
really pleased.
Wasn't he balancing the Scotch eggs on his
yeah,
head?
it's a plate of Scotch eggs on his head, and it's like, oh god, it's so ridiculous. Like,
Yeah, that's great.
oh dear.
Yeah, really enjoyed that. That was great. It then cuts back to Dorothy in the flat, and she's peeling a series of post-it notes off of things, and we don't actually get to read what the post-it notes say at this point, but we can sort of like we work out in the next
So
scene.
we see her growing sort of anger.
Yeah,
She opens the fridge and some of those snakes pop out. And she says,
That was weird.
That just adds to the sort of the zany sort of like
yeah.
disorganised prank nature that these lads live in. Really, like snakes in the fridge. Yeah.
But I think she really sold the kind of her growing exasperation as she walks around the kitchen peeling things off, and then just stands there.
Accepting it.
Stand there as the snakes just fly into her face, and then she goes off to go and find Gary to tell him off.
Then it cuts back to them in the pub, and she arrives at the pub.
Well, as Gary has a conversation with Ken, the barman, at first, and it sort of turns out that he doesn't know anything about being a landlord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but John Thompson sells it quite well. Like, he pours him a pint, and it's about 3/4 full, and then it costs 96p.
Pretty good. Better than Wetherspoon.
Yeah, but it's inflation, I suppose, and everything.
It's what's the 90s as well.
He only fills up the pint glass about 3/4 up, and then Gary's like, I wanted a pint. And he's like, oh, you went all the way to the top, did you? And then he sort of fills it up. And then sort of upon further questioning, it turns out that like he only got the job because his brother was sleeping with the personnel manager at the brewery. So
Mrs. Swift or something? I think her name was Mrs. Swift. I remember that 'cause, I remember thinking of Swift Half.
Brilliant, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So then Gary then decides that it's going to be his local pub because he will be able to exploit this lack of knowledge to get free beer because he finishes the pint and says, "Oh, this was off. You have to pour me a new one. That's the rules." And he's like, "Oh, fair enough." And he pours it, and then in comes a furious Dorothy.
A rightful furious.
Still dressed in a nurse's outfit.
He says to get to the barman to get her a vodka on rocks, but that's a vodka on the rocks. Sorry, but that's enough of our sex life.
Oh, she likes it on the rocks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which ties into a joke she uses back on him later on, which I don't think I wrote that down.
So then
He won't be ready for it in half hour.
yeah, so then she
Yeah.
Yeah, so like get him another drink. He won't be ready for it for another half hour, but that's enough.
That's
of
enough
our
about sex life. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, well remembered. Thank you.
Yeah. So then he orders a drink, and then she's livid. She's got all the post-it notes, and she slaps them one by one onto his face after reading them. Like, fill the kettle up, do my ironing. She turns the tables on him, and she's like, "Oh, do you know what it's like to live with you? This is what it's like." And then she does an impression of a boorish man. She
does all the bits that she moans about him in the first bit
Exactly,
before,
so
and then
she's
he's like horrified, not delighted.
She ogles the landlord, and then she phlegms up and farts. It's a really wet one as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, like the guy just mentioned, she orders Gary another pint and says he won't be ready for it in half an hour. That's enough of our sexual problems. But she's really relishing this part. She really goes for it, Quentin, in this scene.
Which gets her barred from. Gets them both barred from the pub. So the whole episode that they've been looking to get into a new local pub, they get into their pub, which has been remodelled exactly as they liked it, and then he gets barred from it. But I assume that they get back into it somehow, and lots of fun.
I don't think that's the last we'll see of Ken.
No.
I like how, as part of him not knowing the rules and terminology of being a pub, he tries to outlaw them from the pub
Yeah.
before realising that it's being barred.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. Then it just goes on to the end where they're sitting on the sofa talking about, like, I don't know, it was just rambling, wasn't it, really? And it really just cuts really sort of weirdly.
It's a strange ending, but like, I think they're trying to establish that they've been drinking for a while. They're kind of a little bit tipsy and sort of rambling on about things.
There's one very brief thing that happened before that. It's not much to talk about as such, but it cuts to Morrissey with Leslie Ash. They're talking about the astrology stuff, and she's like really intently reading her astrology stuff close to the table, and in the background he's just like head back, mouth wide open, asleep.
Morrissey's a stupid face. It made me laugh.
He's got a great face for comedy. It's really good. Yeah, so he was just fast asleep, and then they just go through like his star sign. But so after that,
but he gets his phone out because he says that his star sign says that he should lay down, and she should lay down next to him in conjunction with his star signs, and she just throws him out. Yeah, but she cottons on to exactly what he's after, and it ain't star signs.
No, it is not. So yeah, it cuts back to the couch, as you were saying.
Yeah, and then it just cuts really weirdly at the end. Like it's just sort of talking. Don't know. Nothing
It was a
really.
very strange. It was a very
Yeah.
strange ending.
Yeah, it was also like, oh, was that it? I was expecting like a big sort of like reveal, like punchline or something like that at the end, but it just sort of cut out.
I think if you're a fan of motorways, then it's the ideal ending for you.
Yeah.
Instead of joking about roads.
It was it's a very anticlimactic ending. It was like a sort of very low key joke to end on. It's something about Yeovil or
On
something.
the M6 or something, M60, I don't know.
Do you want to predict the future, stretching on and on?
Like the M6.
Yeah. Or stopping suddenly, like that little road by the station in Yeovil.
It was very strange. Wasn't a freeze frame either.
No.
You expect that from Membo Badly, but they really
Yeah.
wrong foot you with that.
They're very much like a comedy version of The Strokes, just like end. Yeah.
So did people prefer the Harry Enfield character or the Neil Morrissey character? I guess that's why we looked at the comparison of the two.
Yeah, I think I kind of want to do it in two questions for me because I definitely preferred the character of Neil Morrissey. I feel like he's got a lot more comic potential in a series like this. However, the episodes that we watched, I far preferred the first one with Harry Enfield.
Yeah.
I think there were more things I laughed at, and I think I laughed harder at those things as well. What do you guys think?
I think I buy a little bit more into Neil Morrissey being the sort of the lout, the drinking, than Harry Enfield. I mean, Harry Enfield was funny. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't have thought he'd. It didn't sell it as much that he was going to be a sort of that sort of character.
Yeah, I agree with Mark in that Harry Enfield got a lot of great material in that, and he delivered it really well. But then I can understand why the dynamic of Morrissey, like Tony and Gary, and the two ladies, how that dynamic works better, because in the first iteration of this show, it's the whole dynamic between the characters is purely antagonistic. So that the two guys are antagonistic towards each other and trying to throw each other under the bus, and then the women are sort of antagonistic towards them as well. So like everybody is in conflict with each other. So the men are always trying to mug each other off, and they're trying to sleep with the women, and they're always trying to mug off the men. In this one, there's much of a blokey rapport between the two men, and there's sort of there's lots of scenes of them. We didn't even talk about that. The scene where they're talking about words like men, like, like feminine words that they don't like Lou and potty and things, and then men's words like carburetor and things. That's quite a nice scene. And then at the end, the ending scene, which was, as we said, quite a strange way to end the episode, but it's quite a naturalistic, and they're sort of talking rubbish like men do, and like they're drinking together, and it's quite a nice foundation to build the show on, where they have this. It's quite a nice relationship they have, and then it's antagonistic. They're sort of together against the women. So I think it's sort of more balanced dynamic. I think I can understand why that works and how.
Yeah, they're more of a team rather than
Exactly. Yeah.
Enfield and Clunes, where it seemed like they were against each other as well.
Probably sounds like a stupid thing to say, but like where there's like buddies essentially, and with Morrissey's character, it feels like it's got more potential for them to be acting badly, whereas the other two, I don't know, just Enfield's character just didn't feel like he could be like a cheeky chappy kind of thing. It just, didn't really work for me somehow.
Yeah, I think the whole premise of the show is that there's these two silly men, and it's like a gender war, I think. So it's just the men are stupid, and they're trying to figure out women and, make their way. And I think I can understand why they went forward with having Morrissey, because, like I said, like the dynamic was just, it worked for the show, I think.
Yeah, and as Enfield said, they wanted a proper actor. So should we move on to the little game we had for this?
Oh fuck! I didn't do it. Do you want to? While I try and think of something, do you want to read the?
Should we do the YouTube comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
All right, so let's throw it over to the critical hive mind of YouTube comments. So, Jeff Jones 3 months ago comments, Debs had reached her bangable peak here. Thoughts? Do we agree with him?
I don't know, I haven't really seen much of the other series.
It's a bit more data to come up.
I think she's a lovely looking lady, and I also admire her personality equally.
Yeah. The concise statement 4 years ago, says, I can't help but laugh, Dorothy, anytime Dorothy slaps Gary in the show. I think we all agree there. That was a great moment. Monkey Lover, 5 months ago, 1921, that's a timestamp, 96p for half a pint. Didn't know how good they had it in the 90s.
That's actually, it's 96p for a whole pint, wasn't it?
That
He
is
topped
true,
it up
yeah.
for him.
Got 2 replies here, see what
Mad,
people said
innit?
about it. Sarah L replies, if you love nostalgia, there's a great moment where they buy some milk in season 6. Joe Ward, easily pleased, says, I liked when Gary farted in bed. Oh yeah, so T, 4 years ago, says, imagine giving Debs one doggy style. Heaven. Tony doesn't try hard enough. Ha ha.
Oh, poor Judy. Is Judy Beverett the one that's commented loads?
Judy Bennett has obviously had a breakup recently or something. It puts you off having a relationship. Wonder what inspires the writer. He's got these men right. There's always a Debs. I think she
always a Debs.
She's been spurned recently.
Hilarious when that thing hit Tony in his face. It's a toilet, Julie.
Kiosk face.
I knew men like this, and he farted down the phone. Horrible. But, you know, Julie, I think you're better off single.
Yeah.
Poor old Julie.
Yeah.
Lovely. All right. Do you want to go into the game?
Yeah, sure. Let's go. Yeah. Come on. You got like 3 minutes.
So we're doing the game now that we always play. So this week's game, instead of men behaving badly, we have Ken behaving badly. So the idea of this game is you substitute a famous Ken. I will accept Ken, Kenneth, Kenny, Kendra, Kendrick, any derivative or similar name of Ken, into a comedy sitcom and just a premise or an episode for Ken behaving badly. So what have you guys got for Ken behaving badly?
Sorry, can I just point out that you thought of this game before the show, and this was before we even knew that there was a Ken landlord. I didn't know there was a Ken landlord.
I didn't know there was a Ken landlord either, so it was a pleasant surprise.
Sorry, carry on with the game.
No, that's it. I mean, if you guys want to go with your Ken behaving badly?
I want to go with mine because mine is a piece of shit. Mine is a reboot of the 1979 to 1981 Penelope Keith vehicle that stars the British Shakespearean actor and director Kenneth Branagh, and that is To the Branagh Born. To the Manor Born. That's as far as I've got with that, really.
Okay.
Is Penelope Keith still alive?
Is she the one from The Good Life?
She's the posh bird, yeah.
Yeah, I think she is.
If not,
God rest her soul.
Miranda Hart.
They're the same person, aren't they?
Thank you.
Yeah, they look well similar.
Sexist, but
No, they're visually similar.
I think she'd pull off a decent.
Steady on.
Okay. Branagh and Hart in to the Branagh Born.
That's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Shall I go next then?
If you want to.
Beat that guy.
Yeah, sure. I'm going for more of like along the same lines as like King of Queens, but King of the Picts, and
King of the what?
King of the Picts.
It's an ancient.
It's like ancient sort of Scottish to paint people. And my famous Ken is Kenneth MacAlpin, who was the sort of like King of the Picts in sort of 843 Scotland, and just like that sort of situation comedy.
Wait, what's it called?
King of the Picts. So instead of King of Queens, it's King of, well, I suppose King of Picts, but King of the Picts.
There's an American like sitcom called King of Queens,
which was the painted people, Scotland, Celtics.
I don't know what you're expecting, Mark, but
But my one is Kenneth Carson. Are you guys familiar with Kenneth Carson?
No.
So Kenneth Carson is Barbie's longtime partner, Ken.
Okay.
So the premise I had
I didn't know
was
the surname.
I know it. That's why I googled
Barbie?
it.
Has he actually got a surname?
I didn't Google Barbie. I should have done that.
Again, sexist.
Well, no, Ken's the star of this show. So the premise for this one was they're living together as a couple, and she's always complaining about him leaving his tiny blue pants everywhere around the flat. You know, sort of like similar to men behaving badly, just like classic male and female back and forth. So he's always leaving his blue pants around the flat. She's complaining all the time. And till one day when he's not in the flat, she trips over them, breaks her neck and dies. And
It's
then
comedy. thing.
It's a comedy. Yeah, it starts out sad, but it is a comedy, I promise. So a few months pass after he's grieving, and he's ready to get back on the dating scene. But just as he's ready to get back on the dating scene...
So are you doing this in real time, this episode?
Yeah. I'm setting the stage. I put a lot of thought into this. I'm like you two. So, yeah, where was I?
Chris put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah, he did, to be fair. There's some decent history in that, as there is always. So thank you. So just as he's ready to get back on the dating scene, Barbie appears as a ghost, and it turns into sort of like random hop deceased type thing. Only Ken is cursed with these fitted blue pants, as is the doll. And every girl he gets into like bedroom type situations with, he can't take the blue pants off, and it's like a little curse. And essentially the whole series goes on like that until he meets the one that he's meant to be with, and then his little pants come off and you see his little bum at the end, and he's with the happy
This is a dream you
relationship.
What's the blue pants? Does Ken have blue pants then? I never like had
What's
a
the
Ken
name
or
of the
anything
show
like
then?
that.
It's just Ken behaving badly. It's like, that's it. You don't have to like change that. It's not a pun thing. It's like pick a Ken and then within the show.
What was
we both
the-
changed it. We both.
Yeah,
One's
you-
King of Picks and one's
You
for the
might
Brand
misunderstood
Born.
the purpose of
Doesn't
the
Oh,
it
what,
say
it had to be
behaving
called
badly?
Ken behaving badly?
Yeah, that's the name of the
Okay,
show.
right,
yeah.
Ken behaving badly.
So what the fuck have
Tagline,
the Blue
King of
Pants
the
to do with
Picks.
anything?
Because like
Really angry. You've let me down that path now.
He's gone Clunes at the end of it.
Get out.
I think
You two, Dorothy.
I think I've just realised I'm mixing Ken up with Action Man.
Brilliant.
Who
Fantastic.
made-
Miscast.
I think Action Man's the one with the blue pants you can't take off.
Wait, what Action Man came with blue pants?
All of them. No.
I think your mum was sheltering it. She made those pants for you. You can never see what's underneath.
Not letting him play
I'm
with that
sure of
filth.
it.
Let's
I'm
put these pants on it.
Action Man had blue pants.
At least googling it now.
To be fair, when I had Action Man, I never took his trousers off. So I mean,
He's going
I don't know what you-
to find out now that it's only his doll had that. He's going to break down.
Oh no, Action Man blue pants.
Action Man swimsuit edition.
Considering you obviously put the most thought into that, yours is the worst one. That was really
Fuck
bad,
off.
Mark. That's dog
No,
shit.
how was it? I'd commission it. Look, little blue pants. Action
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Starts with his head.
It's true.
Yeah, but it's. I think that's a carton shot. To be fair, someone's put a different head on a different
fair
body,
enough.
but
Like Sid out of
That's terrible.
Toy Story.
Christ.
Who's going to be casting it? Who's going to be Action or Ken or whatever?
Who's going to be Ken in this? I'm going to go for Ardler Helen again. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
why not?
I'm going to make him our go-to guy. Yeah.
Suck us it. If it's like Ken behaving badly, it's like you could have the premise that like Barbie and Ken are obviously together, but then she leaves him for Action Man, and then it's Ken trying to be more like
Right.
Action Man. So he's like
So this is
behaving
better.
badly and getting
Oh,
into
really?
all the
He
scrapes.
hasn't said blue pants once.
Yet.
Yeah.
Can
And,
I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Can Ken leave Barbie for Action Man?
He could do, but always where's Ken's motivation to behave badly? Then you're getting sort of connotations that that's him behaving badly.
Yeah.
And you don't wanna-
Again. Not sexist this time. Homophobic this time. But still.
And then
Sorry, guys.
Ken
And girls.
gets in a time machine. He travels back to the year 843 in Scotland, and he inadvertently becomes king of the Picts and
Better.
better. That's it, isn't it?
And he wouldn't have to have blue pants, and they could use woad.
Yeah,
Just in
that's it. And that is him behaving badly. He's behaving badly as king of the Picts, like trying to fight with Romans and stuff. Like, no, don't get us.
Sold.
I'm
Okay.
gonna destroy your legion, steal your eagle.
Well, I'm glad I could help. That's all I can say.
No, that. In all seriousness, I'm not just doing this for the effect, but that was really bad. That was a really bad one, Mark. Come on.
I mean,
Chris, don't you think?
I really thought it through.
Well, I thought it was right, and then it just hinged a lot on you seeing Ken's bum at the end. I mean,
Puerile. Better than that.
To be fair, I didn't write Little Bum down. I just said that at the end.
oh, okay. And you could just do like 5-minute Google image search.
Would it be like a freeze?
Satisfied.
I think you can win me round here. Would it be a freeze frame of his pants falling down on his bum? With the credits going over his bum.
Yeah, it would. It would.
Does anyone come in and catch him like with his pants down?
Cindy.
Maybe
On his
that,
pocket.
maybe that could be his true love.
Is this set in like? Is it set real life? Like, are Ken and Barbie real people, or is
Yeah.
it set as like a litop animation, like they're sort
stop-
of their toys, like
Stop
Toy Story
animation,
situation?
whatever it is. Yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Stop motion animation.
I never get it right. Yeah. Stop motion animation.
Okay.
Yeah, that or real people. Either way.
That would take about 3 years for an episode if it's stop motion animation. That's ridiculous.
I'd watch it.
3 years? No, where's your timings on that?
It takes ages to make stop motion animation.
Yeah, but not 3 years per half-hour episode. Just make...
It depends how many people on the team, really, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, if it's just like... Yeah.
if it's just you, then yeah.
And this would be a labour of love, yeah. I don't think I'm going to get anyone on board.
Self-promoted, self-published, self-distributed.
Yeah, just quit my job to work full-time on my stop motion.
It's a real work of passion, isn't it?
So we've spent much more time on this than it deserved, really.
It took me ages.
Doesn't matter. Tony's Star Charts took a long time to make. It's still a piece of dog shit, wasn't it? Just like your episode, just like your sitcom.
We should have stuck with Morrissey or the Smiths songs as a game instead.
Don't try and backtrack. We're not doing that now.
Oh, all right.
It's quite a sour note to end on now, isn't it?
Yeah, Christ.
Smart to let everyone down.
Should we just trail out like the Men Behaving Badly episode? Cut on the end of it. That was long, like M6.
Yeovil's great, isn't it?